just so we have a higher count.
That's good. I want us to, learning is great because we have now a desire for to bring on people. I want to make sure we have a good platform for them. I think it's amazing. Welcome.
Absolutely. Learning is great. Hello, everybody. If anybody is tuning into this, welcome to Double Defense's first live stream from StreamYard onto Facebook. We have gone live on YouTube before, but this is our first time on Facebook, so we are testing the waters, which is why we didn't put it all out on social media that we would be live today.
So if you find us,
an experiment.
There might be a little prize in it for you.
Exactly. If you happen to find us, please send us a comment because I think we can actually look at comments. Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 22 of Double Defense. We are an all-female New York Rangers hockey podcast made up of 2 New York Rangers fans and a Pittsburgh Penguins fan. Go figure.
It was in Calgary, by the way, and we're going to be talking about that today.
Yeah, the other interesting thing about our podcast is that nobody is actually based in New York. We're some former New Yorkers now in Southern California and a Calgarian, which we also can't figure out.
Is that the appropriate response? Are you Calgarian?
Calgarite?
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, Calgarian. Former Torontonian too. If you want to just continue to confuse everyone on our.
What are
Pittsburgh? Yorker and I don't know what they call people.
Pittsburghers? Someone must know that.
Pittsburghites?
Well, they're kind of called assholes, but it's just what it is.
I would almost argue the same around MSG last Saturday night. Oh my God. It was not great, but
that was us. That was Liz and I in front of you just pointing at you.
but it wasn't you guys. It was after.
You liked your popcorn so much, otherwise you would have chucked it at us, which I was expecting.
I more so mean after the game, it was super diehard. It really reminded me of are we in Southie in Boston? It was very, I don't know what the word is, but wasn't friendly. How's that?
Versus it was when you leave a game it was people chirping a little too much after one too many beers at MSG.
And they were probably still hungover or drunk from St. Patrick's Day, so I'm sure that aided to the atmosphere and the vibes. So
it's definitely a thing because I was thinking about this as a whole, between watching the games in Canada and watching, at the arena and at MSG or just being amongst the crowds, whether you're in or outside of the arena, and then just our overall enjoyment of the sport. It's very different between Canadians and Americans. It's not. It's very do or die. I find in the States, and then in Canada, we're all just kind of cool. There was a game on, whether there are teams or not. It's a very chilled environment, very passionate, I guess, on the other side.
Well, that's one word. Depends. What I see, or when I'm in Madison Square Garden. So again, for anyone joining us, or we were all just in New York last week. We're still kind of going vibes. I know, Sarah, you're posting stuff, so I'm like, oh yeah, I remember I did that. So I have to go through our pictures still, and we're still catching up to things. But one of the things I like about not only Madison Square Garden, but maybe it's a section I usually kind of hone toward, which is the 222 to 225 section. And the people I've met there typically are people who are inheriting their parents' season tickets and stuff. So it goes through a long line of people. I've got a couple of friends it's their dad, and now it's down to them, and they're taking on, they're utilizing these seats, and they're getting used by family members. There's 2 seats. I mean, we did that too here at the Kings with my kids. So, so there's something, to that line of fans being raised and how long it goes down. Yeah, it's this great legacy. And those are the people, as you kind of met a few of them, that I've kind of met and gravitate to, and there's that section, where that's the people, they kind of are in the same area, and so those are the people we kind of sticking around and meeting and kind of growing. And yes, there's a passion. Those people are pretty cool. The chirping's mild. You're gonna get the excessive people everywhere.
I don't think it was those people that were doing the little snide comments.
It was the Blackhawks guy behind us. the Blackhawks guy at the Ranger Penguins.
Well, was it a Kane? Was it a Kane jersey? Was he wearing a Kane jersey? Because that kind of makes sense.
No, I don't know. It didn't even get that far. But I was like, you have
I
no
did
business.
see a Blackhawks Kane jersey. Sorry, I did see a Blackhawks Kane jersey at the concessions.
Yeah, because people were trying to support Kane. There were a couple out there.
Well, yeah, still don't chirp as loud as you're chirping when you're in like somebody else's team on there. That was a no. So it didn't even mean anything. Yeah. It was funny kind of going into that too. So last night we played our last game against the Canes for the season, the regular season. And I hated every second of that game. Just honestly, I just hated it. I hated it from the beginning to the end. I'm glad it turned out right for us. But during the intermissions, I had to watch the Carolina feed. And so as they were talking, they had everybody yelling, like, let's go Canes. And I think they tried to have some people, like I was trying to figure out what they were mouthing because it didn't match up. I think some people were trying to start a Rangers suck kind of chant. That didn't really work. We found a Hartford Whalers jersey. So that's going to be a new fun scavenger hunt. Like that's apparently a thing. And not hard to find when you pay attention a little bit, apparently. So it's funny, like, the Let's Go Canes. And then, of course, the horn. I didn't realize that Canes have
the air
freaking horn too.
Yeah, that was unfortunate. Well, speaking of Hurricanes, we got our first comment. Thank you so much, Jeffrey. Jeffrey is the host of Mind Your Pucking Business, and we are so grateful for you for watching our first official live stream on Facebook. Thank you so much. Okay, here's the question: would you rather play the Devils or Hurricanes in round one? I'm going to say the Hurricanes because this is a team that they know they can beat. I think that they shook them up a little bit last night. I think that the Devils are just jerks, and I really would just I think that would stress me out too much to see them have to play the Devils. Christine, what are your thoughts?
Can you ask that a question again next week? I have to replay them because right now I don't know. I mean, right now all we have to go on is what we just saw. So we beat the Kings 3 out of 4 times. We did see some work in progress, I think, this week. I think my comments last night, if you heard what I just said, I hated every single second of the game. I think we got lucky. I think we came out strong in the third, but I think we got really lucky. I think we have an amazing goalie that saved our game. I wish we would have had the 2 first periods, we had on Tuesday, and the third period we had on Thursday, which would have made a perfect game, and we would have won both games away.
Bank a couple of goals
to
save them from when we need them.
As Liz was like, as I entered my anxious period, which is 5 minutes to go with it 1 goal ahead, the Canes have been getting lucky, kind of tying things up and winning in overtime to get that extra point, which we've seen a lot throughout the season. So I'm lately I've been so focused on the Canes. So if you're going to ask me that and make me give you an answer, I'm going to say the Canes. But let's ask that again next week. Let's see how we play the Devils, again, and what we've learned, this week and next week, because we play them in a couple days. So bottom line is I think we can take on anybody in the post season. But we've proved that. So
Christine's always so optimistic. I feel like I'm somewhat less optimistic. I think the Rangers have been a fun team to watch because of the pain that they definitely put us through. I mean, there's some really high highs. There are some very frustrating lows. And I feel like with the Devils, they're playing some really sharp hockey right now. They make me a little nervous, and I just want to put that out there. The Devils definitely make me more nervous than the Canes do.
The Devils are looking to clinch a playoff spot tonight if they win. So that's going to happen. We should be clinching a spot within the next week. So I think it's all kind of hinged on the Capitals losing, which they're doing. So that's fine.
Yeah.
And I don't care. They could just go away, which is fine. So we should, hopefully by this time next week, we'll have clinched our spot as well. And if the Devils win their next game, they will have their playoff spot. So it's getting close at the top. So it's a very good question because who knows? We may have a nice streak at the end here and really push into play this first, second, third, seeding, and I think the Canes are kind of offering a little bit of inconsistency now. They're out. They have some injured players as well.
Yeah.
So, and if you just stop Aho, then they're easier. So the goalie was kind of weak, but they have a great defense. Again, I'll reevaluate when we play the Devils in a couple days, and as I watch that. So, since we haven't played them in a while, to be honest, and that's what I do. As we kind of get, and I like kind of in a way I like playing these teams kind of toward the end because it is a little precursor of what we're going to expect in the postseason. So, yeah, let's get a taste of it. I think we're in for a good a good postseason. I'm not worried.
Christine's always optimistic. I love it, and it rubs off on me. It's a good thing. And Jeffrey, thank you. We are going to do a little watch party tomorrow with the game against Florida, which will be interesting because tomorrow I have to say Sarah's going to have to be a Rangers fan because that
I have
game,
no problem cheering for them tomorrow. I sent you guys that cat meme or whatever for
Florida. Roar. No, yeah. Tomorrow.
And sorry, are they playing in Florida or are they playing in New York?
They're playing in Florida on tomorrow. So that's a huge game. It's actually a bigger game for the Rangers for the Panthers than it is for the Rangers. And I think arguably a bigger game for Pittsburgh than it is for the Rangers too.
Yeah, you guys are getting tight at the bottom there. And now you've got 4 teams that
Thank you, Jeffrey. Thank you, Jeffrey.
You have 4 teams that are kind of going to start really battling it, and I think that's going to be more fun to watch than the 3 of us here at the top. Not to brag. So, but unfortunately, I think we just don't have the luck. I think there's karma that kind of gets us too, because whenever we do win or we do well, so these other teams they're going to get a point, they're going to tie it up, and I kind of want to see that level itself out. So, we only have. All these teams have 10 to 14 games left. So we're going to start seeing everybody clinch this week. These guys at the top. So let's see it. And again, you guys are going to start really battling out. You got 3-4 teams where if the Caps start winning, and you guys are all really, really close. And we're going to start seeing that shift around for those last 2 spots. So that'll be pretty exciting to watch. I hope, well, not for your sake or for the Penguins, but I hope it comes down to a team and a win at the last game to kind of hit that last wild card spot. It happened one time with the Kings, and I don't think they made it. But when it comes down to that wire, and you have one of those, and you see the energy, those are the best games to watch, in my opinion.
I agree. We had it in football. The Steelers did Ben's last season, so I think it was last year, where they won the game they had to win, but the other team won and they didn't need to win, something like that. So while the team had done their homework, they were just at the mercy of everybody else, and it didn't work out. But I've not been quiet about my Penguins and their season. I mean, I have a whole bunch we could talk about today about that. I know we've been over text all week about it, but Christine, you remain a lot more optimistic than I do, which is fair. I mean, I'm optimistic, but I won't be surprised.
I just try to be more realistic at the moment. And thank you, Jeffrey. We're going to make sure you're on with us. How does that sound? I know you're down for that. It's not going to be at 6 a.m. though. It's just your time.
Yeah, the comment is we need to do a playoff preview show when we know the matchup. 100%, absolutely.
Yeah,
we will break all of this down.
So I like being more optimistic. Now, one of the are realistic versus optimistic. I don't want to kind of go too far ahead. Because we still have games that can change the direction of anything. So I think that's important. Now, kind of going off of your team, one of the things we were discussing last night, which was an interesting thing, was this e-bug. Yeah, and the fact, and it was one of the guys on our lovely chat board. Give it up to those Igor and Rob and all those guys who love to be mentioned. But that was really interesting. So. Dallas was playing with an emergency backup goalie, and Jari's injured, and they had the backup goal, but they only had one goalie dressed. They called up people, but they weren't there for the game. and it looks like Dallas did prevail last night.
Yeah.
And the other part was their that backup goalie is like blind in one eye and had
yeah, the British guy. I want to do a whole separate episode, and maybe it's something we could dive into like over the summer. But the concept of the e-bug is absolutely fascinating. We've been talking about it all week. I think that there was a Zamboni driver that got pulled up. I think the Rangers one year brought in like an accountant.
It was another team. Where was a
Toronto,
lawyer?
It was Toronto, yeah.
But it was 2020 and 2018. And so not even all that long ago that this occurred. So, and interestingly enough, last year, as you recall, a lot of main goalies were injured in the playoffs. And so it wasn't just the Penguins goalie. It was, I think, there was more than one that was the backup goalie was even playing through the playoffs. So that was an interesting kind of lineup yesterday. So we'll see what happens with Drury being out and where they're going to go from here and who's going to be their backup.
Definitely. We have a question for Sarah. I met a Pittsburgh fan yesterday who hates Mike Sullivan, and I was floored. What do you think of him?
I like Mike Sullivan, and thank you for the question.
Christine likes Mike Sullivan.
He came right by us when we were at the arena.
They had a moment. That's why they lost.
Not only do I think he's personable, which I think is definitely part of the job. I think we all have stories, I think, of players and coaches and management who aren't. But he's super personable. He's also, I think, the only American coach, to win 2 Stanley Cups, or at least in recent years. It was a stat I read last week, which I find interesting. But no, I think he's personable. He's got a lot of experience to be there. No issues, no complaints. I more so have an issue with Ron Hextall, which I have notes in here to talk about today. Jeffrey, if you'd like to talk about that. I'm seeing that he's being booed at the arena, which I wasn't aware of. You certainly don't see that on camera. You must see it just in the arena itself. But I'm not surprised, and I think that's a bigger issue in their management. But we can get into that after.
Interesting.
I think we should get into it now. What's going on, Sarah? Give us the.
It's either that or talk about Calgary and coaches. So start here and we'll go there. And it's Sarah's day because there's a lot going on around these guys. Yeah.
Sure. Okay. Sorry. Let's start with Pittsburgh. So, hold on. Sorry, this is way down on my notes. Okay. Sorry. So there's an article this afternoon from the Hockey News about Penguins management and Ron Hextall, citing that during the home games, fans are now chanting "Fire Hextall" in the crowd. Which, again, from an at-home experience, I'm not seeing that on the camera. But they're not happy with him, and they're saying that he's taking too long to make adjustments for the team, which I agree completely. He re-signed Jeff Carter to the end of 2024. Kapanen hasn't performed, and he's kept him on. He was rumored to be a trade element at trade time, but he brought DeSmith up at the start of the season to back up Drury, which is fine. I think we've seen a great performance from DeSmith as the backup. No complaints there. He re-signed Malkin and Letang, which I've said many times on our podcast. Jim Rutherford, who was in management for Pittsburgh for years, left the organization, rumored to be fired because he wanted to trade Malkin last year. So it's just interesting that that's come out that he kept Malkin and Letang. But I mean, when you think of that line and you think of the way they play with Sydney, of course you're going to keep them all together as long as you can. I don't think those are the ones you're going to move. However, they're not investing enough in the younger players. They're also not they're not shining a light on all the players. All they're doing is putting Crosby on. So there's so many elements to this. It's not.
The comment is Hextall sucks. Not really sure how he ever got a front office job. His resume sucks.
I read as a player that he was also booed a lot as well. So it's a weird hire. But this all just fits into my manifesting of bringing in Bruce Boudreau for Pittsburgh, which would be ironic considering how he left Vancouver and how Jim Rutherford is in Vancouver. So,
well,
Sarah's going to manifest it.
So, what is your gut saying if they just don't make the playoffs this time? Do you think they'll
quite frankly, I don't think they want it. I start to wonder, based on this article I saw today, if there's a lot more going on than what we realize. A friend of mine this morning said that he thinks Malkin's the only one really trying every game. And I don't disagree. watching Sid play the other night against the Avalanche, it's the first I've kind of seen him slightly motivated in several games, right? They've only won 3 in the last 8. That's all like them. And especially when you don't see much change in the games, loss after loss after loss.
And we saw that when we were there at Madison Square Garden watching those 2 games. Like the fact that they lost that first one at MSG and then really didn't seem to change up any kind of strategy going into the second one where they got hammered. That was it was weird. It was very weird to see a playoff contending team fall apart like that.
And quite frankly, the Thursday night game, they showed up Thursday night. They did score 2 goals. There was effort there. I even think they outshot New York the whole game, I believe.
They did.
But Saturday, they did not come to the table at all. And it really made me wonder if more was going on.
So that'll be an interesting thing to watch in the next week or 2. Again, you guys are really vying for this spot. There's 4 or 5 teams here where any one of them get together. Right now, we're hinging on Washington to kind of win or lose. I mean, right now they're the benchmark for Carolina clinching yesterday, for Devils clinching tonight, and for us potentially to be clinching in the next few days. So if they continue to lose, then then it's good for you. But you got the Panthers coming up, and I think Ottawa's in there too. So let's kind of see how these teams is. I'm gonna keep an eye on the game. I was watching the Penguins, believe it or not, the other night. So and just trying to kind of get an understanding of how they're playing, kind of what you see, or what you're hearing. And I'm going to start focusing more there. I think the bottom part of our league, in our division is going to be more exciting. And after the next 2 weeks, after we see we're coming down to the wire, it's getting exciting.
This is the best time. This is the best part of the hockey season, I think, because everyone except for Pittsburgh is playing really hard, like they actually want it. Literally every team.
I spent way too much time last night on my own just figuring out what happens, like if just trying to figure out the stats on how we would clinch it. Because if people don't know, I have a degree in statistics and math, so I get very numerically oriented right around now. This is the time I really love it, and I know there's Instagram accounts that do it for you, put out those memes and kind of tell us. But I kind of like projecting to see where we would go, and it's fun for me to see. So it makes each game more intense because not only it's not about us winning again, but we gotta, other people have to lose for us to move. And so now it's getting to be a nice little well-oiled machine to see where we're going to fit and end up for the playoffs. And then we'll go more into Jeffrey's first question as to who we'd rather play and how we're going to play. So,
and Jeffrey, thank you for the compliment. I will say this show will get even better if the further we make it in the postseason. So we shall all hope for that.
I do think it would help Pittsburgh if they didn't make the playoffs. I think really that's where you're going to see change. I know that's probably not the supportive fan verbiage, but supportive of the team and the organization, that's where the change needs to happen. And it won't happen until they're done.
It's a real thing, it wasn't too long ago where the Sharks were the ones that, relied everything relied on Thornton and Burns. Everything relied on Thornton and Burns. They never changed anything, even though they choked every season. And starting with the Kings, that led to the Kings winning the Stanley Cup. It started with them, so I think after they decided to, not be that choke team, they kind of let those guys go, and they're kind of thriving in their own way. I don't want to see Burns beating us on anything, when we're playing him, but like they're, I think separating them and kind of letting them kind of go on and do different things. It was a better decision for the Sharks. I'm not focused too much now. The only thing I know is that the Kings and the Knights are doing well. So, I'm going to project that I would like for the Rangers to play the Knights or the Kings. I don't really want to say the Kings. I'm going to say the Knights because that would be more fun to go see. I would fly out every other night to the game. I know Liz is going to be on the plane with me. And I know Sarah's going to come down.
We're going to be shaming each other.
Yeah, we're going to make it happen.
I'll come watch that game.
It would be super fun. That would be a great matchup. I wouldn't mind Rangers Wild Stanley Cup. I think that would be super fun to see Reeves back. banging around everyone.
But you got Zook. I'm like, I'd be sad. Like, just not one way or the other. I'm like,
Yeah, but
I don't want
Tori-
restarting any. Like, you go right for Lindgren, and we lose them on the first second. We don't need that.
You'd party on the Strip of the Cup. Absolutely. 100%.
You know, Jeffrey, you want to come out.
Cup. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Rangers fans took over Vegas when we were there for the game. I think it was in December. Holy crap, would they take over Vegas in June if that happened?
I mean, literally, that's the
during
game.
Banff.
That's the game that all the fans left with 12 minutes to go, and the only people in the arena were Rangers fans. So we just owned everything. It was great. It was fun, and everyone was really nice too. So it ultimately was a good trip for that. So
I'll indulge Sarah for a second. Let's say by some miracle the Penguins do make the playoffs, and let's say by some miracle they're making the finals this year. Who would you want to see the Penguins play in the Stanley Cup?
Oh God, that's a great question. I don't even know.
Us? Oh wait, it didn't happen.
They can't do that.
What? It never happens. Guess who? Like, they're the top 3 out of 5 in the top of the league right now that aren't even going to see the light of day past the first round. Half of our division. Yeah.
We have one more. We have another comment. Michelle is tuning in. Hi, Michelle. Michelle is my mom. For anybody who doesn't know, she is going to be at the Rangers-Panthers game tomorrow in Florida. And she is saying her comment is Rangers fans will own Miami tomorrow. They better. I really hope so. And I think we're going to touch on this in a little bit, but I do want to commend the Panthers organization for the work that they did on Pride. They did a great job. There were a couple of players who did not do a great job, but I do give a lot of credit to the Panthers organization as a whole. So that will be an interesting game tomorrow to see how that kind of plays out. And then Jeffrey is saying, please bring home 2 points, Michelle. So Michelle, please make sure that you are cheering for the Rangers. And even Sarah is going to be cheering for the Rangers tomorrow.
I will. I do like Kachuk. I hope he has some good moves or some fights tomorrow, just because I need to see some more fighting. But no, of course, the Rangers, I will be supporting them. Absolutely.
I hope somebody gets a couple extra punches in on a couple of guys.
Maybe we can manifest Kachuk fighting somebody on the Rangers. It's totally fine. I just want to see some fights.
Yeah. So before I might save my rant on Pride stuff for later, because I have words, but what I want to so I'll save people here. I'd rather have more of an audience too, because I don't mind, but I do want to see, Sarah, I'm going to kind of flip it back to you for the Calgary team, because what I'm seeing is it sounds like you guys have a team up there full of crybabies that just can't handle Daryl Suter, and I'm seeing that his former teammates are defending him. So I don't know if you're seeing that as well, but I think Toffoli came out and kind of defended Suter, and I think it's kind of coming back that this Gen Z kind of player level can't handle doing the work that that a good coach, a Stanley Cup level coach is gonna give to them. What are you seeing out there?
I'm glad you phrased it that way, and I couldn't agree more. It's Sutter, Daryl Sutter. He's also referred to as the Jolly Rancher here, because I want to see someone interview him, and that's just what the tagline says underneath. Instead of Daryl Sutter, I want to see it say the Jolly Rancher. He is well known for his tough love, no bullshit, just hard work and play hard, and just give it all on your ice. He is definitely not the coach that is going to sit there and hold your hand and give you a hug and tell you it's going to be okay. That's not his style. And he's been known for that. He's been in Calgary. I want to say this is his 6th time coaching. We're talking multiple times coming back to the Flames. He just has that relationship with the organization, and he always gets it done. But yeah, he certainly is not the warm and fuzzy teddy bear hug that I think some of these guys are anticipating.
You know what though? You know what's interesting about that is he has a tough approach, but his son, I think his son's name is Chris, right?
He's a dancer at the
So I mean, okay, so Chris was really big and very involved with the Kings. So when Daryl was coaching the Kings and we were at the games, so Chris, he was the Larry of the Kings, and probably the Larry of Calgary now. But he's also a motivator. So it's interesting because you have you have two extremes there. You have Darren, who's like, very rigid, and he knows what he's experienced. He's been around forever. And then Chris, who's a sweet, nice guy, and he's like their team cheerleader. He's their motivator. And I don't know if he has that same relationship with the Calgary players as he might have had with the Kings players. It's an interesting thing to kind of maybe look into as well. But you just have this really interesting dynamic, because where there's Daryl, there's Chris, and Chris is very involved in the team, and he's there at all the games. He's up close and personal with everybody, and he's the sweetest guy. And I think there's no one that has not just loved him being their biggest cheerleader for each game. But I guess that doesn't help behind the scenes when they're getting yelled at by a coach. So, and if I was like, oh my God, if it was me being coach, I would have had everybody doing ladders with the way they were playing. I'm like, I would have gone all hockey mom coach, from sport level hockey. Like, I don't know what they do, but I'd be making them work, even my own team, because how many shots did we have on goal? Like 12. We didn't even have a whole lot of shots. We got lucky. And that was fine for our win last night. I still didn't like the game. I didn't like the way that we played. I think we learned defensively how to kind of protect ourselves, and we got a couple lucky shots, which got us through, to the end. And I'm glad we did. So, and as a reminder, we did win 3 out of 4 matches against Carolina. So it wasn't just this week. It's been the whole series, and we did prevail over them. So that's a good sign for things to come, which I will say. So we'll keep an eye on your teams, both your teams, your local team, and as well as your Penguins team.
Speaking of the local team, it's funny. Last night, Steve's like, I really like your McDavid jersey. I'm like, I know, but we can't really talk about it yet. He's like, I know, we got to wait for Calgary to be done, but he's like, I might get one. And I'm like, because they're just so attractive. And I get it. Edmonton playing style is a lot more attractive to us than the Flames. The Flames are a nice, clean, they do fight, but they're not really that rowdy team. They just kind of get it done. Edmonton's got fire and light in them, and they want to bring it in a big way. And I think that resonates with us as fans, especially from the East Coast, eastern side of the country, not the East Coast. More so than say, that laid back.
It's a Canadian version of the East Coast.
Yes, there you go.
That's Canadian for the East Coast.
So, I'll be honest, I haven't been following the Canadian teams too closely. Obviously, Toronto's had a good, did I say it right? Toronto. It just rolled off the tongue. Yep. Sarah worked with me for a week. I coached her on how to say bagel.
They're ahead of us. Right ahead
of us. And she was teaching me how to say Toronto. We played Toronto our last game of the regular season on April 13th. Toronto's had a good run. We haven't heard much about them. We haven't really talked much about them this year, other than they're planning the parade. Sarah, are you hearing? Because I'm sure a lot of your buddies are Toronto Leafs fans. So what are they feeling? Do they think it's going to be their year?
I really should get a take from my dad, but I talk to Leafs fans every day. None of them are playing the parade, but it's something we hear in Canadian media, I think, every morning, or commenting on how the Toronto media.
Do they not do that every year?
Toronto media is planning that parade for them. I agree that I haven't even heard much on that team lately. I think it's getting kind of quiet over there. Maybe they're just trying to hone all their energy and save it for the next few weeks.
Maybe they're not trying to jinx anything, because that's what they do. They jinx
perhaps. And I mean,
I will tell you.
I will give you my prediction. They will be out first round. It's just what they do. They will choke, and it's fine. Life will go on. We all survive every other year. But yeah, no, most of my friends, even though they're in the Toronto region, they are not Toronto fans. They're other fans, Canucks fans, Sens fans. But the diehard Leafs will always be there. And then I have a lot of Edmonton fans that are friends of ours. Huge Edmonton
Are they Edmonton fans, or are they,
they're not tied to a player. They love that franchise.
That's an interesting thing too. Well, I guess they go back.
They go back. Yeah,
so far.
We talked about legacy before. It's hard to shake that. I mean, look at Rangers fans. We've been holding on desperately since '94.
94. Yeah.
And the Rangers had to sure go through a rebuild period as well, and we talked about the Penguins and sort of their struggles this year. Maybe this is sort of the beginning of their future rebuild, with how they have to kind of reshape that team. Also, Crosby must be getting close to retiring. Are there any rumors about when he's going to hang it up?
I haven't seen any rumors, but just watching him the last little bit, I feel like it's probably coming. He'll be 36 in November.
Yeah,
and
he's getting accolades for everything. Like he's the greatest thing on the earth, even though he's not doing anything lately.
I know.
So
I
that was the
agree.
game the other night.
I agree. The PA put out a bunch of awards for other players, and that was one of them. That he was the most complete player, and I'm like, sure, at one point, but like, I wouldn't say it's now. Yeah, I was like, okay, I'll post this, but I agree. Like, he's a great player. He's done a lot for the game. He's done a lot for his organization. He's done a lot for Canada. But he's not. I'm sorry, he's not the best player in the league right now. He isn't.
Well, yeah, again, how much ice time did he have the other night? Let's look and see. I mean, I don't follow that, but I can look and see when they're kind of praising him every other second. Yeah. And I think there was just something where I think he's the first player, like, within a 30-year stretch to score 30 goals, when it started and now, so.
And now, yep.
So, yeah, sure. But again, right now we're looking at so many younger players kind of building up. Right now they're the flavor of the moment. And that's kind of what I like about it too. Again, when I started watching hockey back, it was even prior to Wayne Gretzky. It was like Mike Bossy was the Wayne Gretzky of that time. And then Wayne came along and broke that. And then other people coming along and breaking that. And the different strategies. I mean, before there wasn't as much competition, or those numbers seemed easy to achieve, back then. And being the teams that they were on and the way they were played is something that makes a difference too, as I've always kind of said, and one of the reasons why I like our team. Because, by the way, in the last week or so, I think on our last discussion we talked about a lot of franchise records were broken, scoring opportunities were there. And I think with those two games that they played last weekend, with the number of goals they scored, I think we had 18 goals unanswered in a period of 4 games. So that was exciting to watch. But the important thing, and I want to see that more in other teams and focus. And if it's there, I want to hear about it more, where we have 5, 6, 7, 8 guys, scoring. So it's nice when Kako just scored and he hasn't scored in a while, and Fox scored, and I'm like, they're coming around, and we're all scoring. And I'm always going to be proud of that, and I'm always going to kind of reflect on that. And that's the strength we have in the team.
You touched on something interesting, Christine. This is something that we could talk all day about it. But as technology improves, as training improves, we're going to see a lot of these records that had been held for a long time broken, because they're skating faster, they're scoring more. The strategy in terms of recovery, just from a physical standpoint, is getting better. We've seen it across every professional sport. Hockey is going to be no different. There's an ad that ESPN runs constantly, because they seem to have the same 4 ads on repeat, but one of them is Diego's ad, which I see. A friend of ours is in that Amazon ad with the dog, and it's on every other ad break. But the other one that they're running, that I always stop and I watch, is the one that talks about, is this the new golden age of the NHL? And they're showing like old school video NHL games, and they're saying, like, do you remember when there used to be cheat codes for the guy who had extra speed, or the guy who could do the shot that nobody else could do? Like, we are now living in a time of like human cheat codes. I've heard Shesterkin's been referred to as a human cheat code before, because he's so freaking good. But that is a credit to him, but it's also a credit to his trainers and the way that he's training and recovering. And it's just exciting. It's going to make the game much more competitive going forward, which I think is super cool.
Yeah, look, and I wonder, too, if our median age of players is going to start shifting, more back to those younger guys. I think we kind of went off of that too. Just remember, like 2 back in the day when the Olympics were really truly Olympics for unprofessional athletes that were up and coming, a lot of these NHL teams discovered these players from the Olympic teams, and they went off from the Olympics onto NHL teams, and that's kind of reverse, which kind of leads more to older players. We're shifting. 20 years ago, we didn't even have American-born players playing. They were really all foreign players coming into the NHL. So we're getting kind of more homegrown players too. So people, in looking at the bigger picture as to how it was 20 years ago, and kind of, I always kind of say that starting point was the Golden Knights when we formed them, and they were like all these young. I don't want to say rejects, but they only had so much to pick from to choose their team, and they had fun. I think they were just like, we have nothing to lose. We don't expect anything. And where did they go? They went all the way to the top the first year. And I've talked to, some announcers and stuff like at the Kings, and because the Rangers kind of jumped right on that bandwagon, so to speak, kind of right after that and it was harsh. It was brutal to watch, like kind of camaraderie and friendship kind of be broken up abruptly, and we lost some players we loved, but you start thinking of it as a business and a franchise and a goal, and trusting in the direction that we're going for it. Let's see where we're at now. I'm hopeful. I'm excited for Vegas, in this playoff round.
That Vegas team, I remember watching that too, just being so excited for them. Fleury was on that team. He will always have my heart. If it is a Rangers Minnesota final, like
on there now.
I don't know. Anyway, sorry. Fleury, Phil Kessel was on that team. Yeah, you're right. They're kind of like an island of misfits, I think, at the time. Just like no one knew what to do with them, and here they were. And then look at what they did. They achieved so much.
Are, in a way, like look at now. You got Quick, who just.
But partially thanks to our friend Gallant. I mean, let's not forget from whence he came.
Oh yeah.
But did he come from Vegas?
He wasn't. Yeah, he coached Vegas.
Oh, sorry.
I don't think he was there. He was there. I think it was was it a year?
Yeah, I think it was long.
It wasn't long. It wasn't long, but he got them. He did get them pretty far.
Wow.
Yeah. And just okay, so just this is not this is by no means a political podcast, nor do we generally comment on the politics that go on behind the scenes of hockey. However, I think we've talked a lot about this on this podcast. There's certain times that we do feel like we want to address various things that are happening in the league. Obviously, the one that has been on everybody's mind is the Pride jerseys, and I know Christine has some choice thoughts that she wants to talk about today.
Oh yeah, mine are very just straightforward, and I call bullshit on everybody. So yeah, thank you for just saying that, and you guys can chime in. I know we've talked about it before, and we've kind of debated it as well, but with everything else kind of going on, it started with one player refusing to wear a jersey on a scheduled Pride night, where the only real hard effort that anybody has to do that's being paid is to wear a jersey, and then it's auctioned off to charity, where people are paying several thousands of dollars, and hundreds of dollars to buy these jerseys, and it supports organizations that are represented by the NHL and the respective teams. And it's also made to be inclusive amongst other nights throughout the year that each NHL team holds. And I think I summed that up absolutely 100% correctly. And so it just gets out of hand, and it's unfortunate to see. And I know we've debated it before, but with the additional players on the Sharks and on the Panthers that we've got coming up now, I'm also seeing other players calling out their bullshit. So my whole thing is, look, you can say whatever you want. It's bullshit. You're a liar and you're a pussy. I mean, I just don't even have nice terms for it, because you're hiding behind something that isn't even really, that has nothing to do with what's happening. This is just an inclusive effort to say, hey, people that support us come from all different backgrounds. It's not political. It's not religious. It's just your fans and the people that buy your tickets that come see the games are made up of so many different people. And for anybody to argue it, I'm more disgusted with the fans. I'm disappointed and disgusted too with these particular players because I feel that they're just homophobic and they don't even have enough guts or courage to just speak the truth. If you're gonna stand up for, which is your absolute right, to either stay silent or to speak up, but to come out with a mask of something that's incorrectly, it's incorrectly used, and it could be ignorant, it could be incorrect, it's bullshit. The Stahl brothers are also getting called out by other players because none of these players are new. So why is it all of a sudden an issue? That I don't want to get into. I don't really care about that. I think it affects them globally because, again, we were at the game. What I have to tell you, like when we were at that first game, there were two guys behind us who were Asian. I loved them because the play-by-plays were all in a foreign language. I was talking with them and we were cracking up. They photobombed all our pictures. They had so much fun. They were singing karaoke. I feel like it was two brothers. I mean, they were hilarious. But I loved that, I can go to an arena and it's such a fair mix of people. It didn't used to be like that. It's predominantly a Caucasian, a white person sport when I started getting into hockey. And now you can go to a game and there's so many different people, kids, women, all different colors and backgrounds are there. And the fact that, so many years ago, the NHL started to be inclusive in kind of promoting these things, which also raised money for the foundations they sponsor. I think, unfortunately, certain events have led up to people kind of making excuses.
And I think we would also be remiss, and I know we're all big Rangers fans here, but I think we'd be remiss to not call out the New York Rangers organization as well for not participating, because I think that was a big blow to a lot of fans. And I don't want to dive too far deeply down this rabbit hole because we can talk about it for a while.
The players for their weakness of being male and not being able to be truthful. The fans are another thing, because I've seen disgusting, displays of, of comments and direction within fans. So, and ignorance, it's a social issue, which we should be growing and learning from each other. And that's the most unfortunate thing. So, I have to direct my frustration where it is, which is these particular players bullshitting and they're lying about, what they're trying to use as an excuse for why they don't want to participate when they've probably done so before, as we know, at least half of them. But going forward, it'll be an interesting display. The teams that chose not to participate, I think in a way, I'm kind of on the fence about that. I feel like they might have pulled back to not be controversial, but that kind of backfired on them. So I think
the whole thing backfired on the whole thing is just one big backfire. It is just one, and it's only gotten worse every time the NHL has tried to stop the snowball from getting worse. They've somehow made it worse.
So the two things I've seen this week, along with the Calgary with Toffoli speaking out and defending, Daryl, I've also seen, other players stepping up and defending or, kind of not defending their actions. And so I do like to see that. This is a new thing too, where some players, if they're going to step out one way, the other guys are like stepping up to defend, their actions. So Connor McDavid, I think, was stepping up saying, you got to call it bullshit on you guys. You guys have done this before. What changed, So it's getting to be an internal turmoil for them on this. Because they chose a path that shouldn't have even occurred, because it went down for wrong reason, the wrong direction. Again, let's keep in light, and what we like to promote. And I'm going to keep pursuing this. I mean, we're a female podcast. It is a month of women's awareness, and we've seen a lot of that. There's Black Women's Hockey Club, which, I'm going to get to know better because I think they're fabulous. And And we've seen that even with the All-Star play, like the All-Star game where we had women involved in that. And there was just, again, comment with the fans and people about where women belong in the sport, which come at me, bro, on that one, you know? And so I was trying to spin it in a better light, you know, where look, love always wins, inclusive, you know, inclusive. I don't know, this is not a word, just being more inclusive. There's inclusivity is not even a word, but being more inclusive, you know, it has to grow and people have to be more tolerant and learn. And for those of you that are not in with the game, and we'll find you. I'll find you.
And what I said to you guys before, just for the record, why would anyone be against gay hockey players when there's such amazing Krabenajad fan fiction available to read? I'll leave it at that. I will not read a quote today. Why?
Yay for bromances!
Hashtag bromance.
And
on that note, I want to wish you ladies a very successful and happy weekend. Go Rangers for everybody tomorrow.
Tomorrow we'll be at Champs Pub, Sports Bar and Grill in Burbank. The Kings are playing at 1:00 and the Rangers are playing at 2:00. So we're going to be there. If you happen to be listening or know anybody in the Southern California area, we welcome all people to watch the games. We definitely promote the ladies and the women of the Rangers and the Kings, as well as every other team, because we can all get along. It's fun to razz, but we can all get along at the same time. So if you're in the Southern California area, please join us tomorrow at 2:00 at Champs Pub, Sports and Grill in Burbank.
Thank you all.
We're gonna be there.
Bye, guys. Let's go Rangers.